Hi, friends.
Hi.
Welcome back to another episode of The Seed Pod, a podcast for kids and their grown-ups. The Seed Pod is a project from the Sycamore Seeds Learning Community teachers.
I'm Miss Lauren.
And I'm Miss Sam, and we'll be your hosts. Today is Friday, October 24th. It's also Friend of the Pod Friday, where we interview different folks about their cool jobs. Stay tuned to hear from our mystery guest.
On this day in 1901, 124 years ago, the first barrel ride down Niagara Falls was successfully attempted by schoolteacher Annie Edison Taylor. Strapped inside a 5-foot wooden pickle barrel, Taylor was cut loose from a small boat that pulled her into the middle of the river and made it to the bottom after a 20-minute ride, no doubt with a few bruises from being knocked around by the rapids. Taylor's barrel ride has inspired 15 other attempts to go over the falls, and not just in barrels. There was even a try at riding a jet ski in 1995, but sadly, it did not end as successfully as Annie's ride. Today, it's illegal on both the Canadian and the U.S. borders to go over the falls, no matter how it's done.
If today is your birthday, happy birthday! Even if it's not, we can send well wishes to a few famous friends who were born on this day. On October 24th, we wish a joyful trip around the sun to Jeff Mangum of the band Neutral Milk Hotel, the voice of Mira in Netflix K-pop Demon Hunters, Mei Hong, and to our barrel riding friend Annie, who turned 63 years old the day she went over Niagara Falls.
Now that's impressive.
Yeah, right?
It's Friend of the Pod Friday. Now, normally this segment will feature me, Miss Lauren, interviewing a friend in the community, but today we're turning the questions over to Miss Sam.
Hello, friends. Our mystery guest today is Miss Lauren.
Hey!
She has a pretty cool job when she's not co-hosting a podcast. Miss Lauren, you are the founder of the Sycamore Seeds Learning Community. Now, we call it a school, but it is a little bit different. Like, how would you describe it?
Yeah, it is. So the thing about Sycamore Seeds is it's actually a hybrid homeschooling program. So all of our families are homeschool families, which means that on the days that they're not with us, they're at home doing their own learning in whatever way they see fit. And when they come to us the 3 days a week, we spend our time studying literature. We do nature study. We are studying history and art. We even do some math work in there. But the best part to me is we get lots of unstructured free playtime out in nature. So all of our students get to spend really quality time with their friends. Our program has actually really expanded a lot this year. We have more than doubled our student size from last year to this year. And so I was super fortunate to find somebody who had kind of this kindred spirit who really aligned with the vision of what I wanted to create here. And so we were able to bring on our co-teacher, who is, of course, our own Miss Sam.
And you were a teacher for 10 years?
That is true.
Yeah, before. So what made you want to stop teaching in the traditional sense and start your own school?
So it's kind of interesting. When I started teaching, I was actually a kindergarten teacher, and I had just such big hopes and expectations for teaching kindergarten. And my experience was just a little bit different from what I had expected. I had kind of envisioned the kindergarten of my childhood in the 1900s, and things have changed a lot. And so once I had kids and they started getting old enough for me to really be thinking about, what kind of education I wanted for them, I just kind of made the decision to create the environment that I wished I had been able to work in. And so that is kind of how Sycamore Seeds got started. Homeschooling can be really lonely. And so I knew that we didn't really want to do it alone, but I wanted a lot of just the creativity and the educational freedom that came with Sycamore Seeds. And I saw a little bit of a gap in the community here. There was no programs for secular families in our area, and I knew there had to be more people who were looking for that community. And so I decided to make it.
To wrap it up, I guess send us off with what you are looking most forward to this year at Sycamore Seeds.
Ooh, okay. How about I tell you what I'm most looking forward to in the next few weeks? Because we just are really doing such cool things all the time. It's hard to pick just one for the rest of the year.
So true.
Something that a little tradition we've kind of started in our program is what we call our friendship feast. And that is our last day of school before Thanksgiving. We all work really hard to work together and we prepare a meal, our friendship feast, right? And we spend all day chopping vegetables and preparing food, and then we get to share it together. And I've got to say, we're getting really ambitious this year, and we're going to try some new stuff, some new recipes. We're going to take on even more than we did last year, and I just think it's going to be so fun.
I am so looking forward to eating it as well. Thanks so much for being our very first mystery guest on our Friend of the Pod, Miss Lauren.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now it's time for Story Corner. We'll pick up where we left off yesterday in The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Chapter 16. The Journey to the Country of the Quadlings. The next morning, the sun shone brightly as our friends turned their faces toward the land of the south. They were all in the best of spirits and laughed and chatted together. Dorothy was once more filled with the hope of getting home, and the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman were glad to be of use to her. As for the Lion, he sniffed the fresh air with delight and whisked his tail from side to side in pure joy at being in the country again, while Toto ran around them and chased the moths and butterflies, barking merrily all the time. The first day's journey was through the green fields and bright flowers that stretched about the Emerald City on every side. But the days that followed brought many dangerous adventures for the travelers. In the morning of their second day, they came to a thick wood filled with trees as far as they could see. They discovered these trees had wide, spreading branches that reached out and grabbed them, flinging them to the ground. The woodman saved his companions by fiercely chopping at the fighting limbs, making a path that they might pass. Then the travelers found themselves in a wild-looking forest, where the trees were bigger and older than any they had ever seen. "This forest is perfectly delightful," declared the Lion, looking around him with joy. "Never have I seen a more beautiful place." "It seems gloomy," said the Scarecrow. "Not a bit," answered the Lion. "I would like to live here all my life. Surely no wild beast could wish for a more pleasant home." "Perhaps there are wild beasts in the forest now," said Dorothy. "I suppose there are," returned the Lion. The following morning they came to an opening in the wood in which there were hundreds of animals of every variety gathered. There were tigers and elephants and bears and wolves and foxes, among others, and for a moment Dorothy was afraid. But the Lion explained that the animals were holding a meeting, and he judged by their snarling and growling that they were in great trouble. As he spoke, several of the beasts caught sight of him. The biggest of the tigers came up to the Lion and bowed. "Welcome, O King of Beasts," the tiger said. "You have come at a good time to fight our enemy and bring peace to all the animals of the forest once more." "What is your trouble?" asked the Lion quietly. "We are all threatened," answered the tiger, "by a fierce enemy which has come into this forest. It is a most tremendous monster, like a great spider, with a body as big as an elephant and legs as long as a tree trunk. Not one of us is safe while this fierce creature is alive, and we had called a meeting to decide how to take care of ourselves when you came among us. If I put an end to your enemy, will you bow down to me and obey me as king of the forest? Asked the lion. We will do that gladly, returned the tiger. All the other beasts roared with a mighty roar. We will! So the lion said goodbye to his friends and marched proudly away to do battle with the enemy. The great spider was lying asleep when the lion found him, and it looked so ugly that the lion turned up his nose in disgust. Its legs were quite as long as the tiger had said, and its body was covered with coarse black hair. The lion knew it was easier to fight it asleep than awake. So he gave a great spring and landed directly upon the monster's back. Then with one blow of his heavy paw, he killed the monster. The lion went back to where the beasts of the forest were waiting for him and said proudly, You need fear your enemy no longer. Then the beasts bowed down to the lion as their king, and he promised to come back and rule over them as soon as Dorothy was safely on her way to Kansas. The four travelers passed through the rest of the forest in safety, and when they came out from the gloom, they saw before them a steep hill, covered from top to bottom with great pieces of rock. That will be a hard climb, said the Scarecrow. They had nearly reached the first rock when they discovered hundreds of the strangest men the travelers had ever seen. These men had big, flat heads and necks full of wrinkles. They had no arms at all, but were dangerous just the same. As the travelers tried to pass, the armless hammerheads shot forward. Their necks stretched out until the tops of their flat heads struck, sending their enemy rolling down the hill as if hit by cannonballs. They realized it was useless to fight the people with the shooting heads, so Dorothy called the winged monkeys one last time. Putting on the golden cap, she uttered the magic words. In moments, the monkeys stood before her. What are your commands? Inquired the king of the monkeys, bowing low. Carry us over the hill to the country of the Quadlings, answered the girl. Then, before the hammerheads could do any more damage, the king said, It shall be done. And at once the winged monkeys caught the four travelers and Toto up in their arms and flew away with them. As they passed over the hill, the hammerheads yelled with anger and shot their heads high in the air at them, but they could not reach them. The winged monkeys carried Dorothy and her comrades safely over the hill and set them down in the bountiful country of the Quadlings. This is the last time you can call us, said the leader to Dorothy, so goodbye and good luck to you. Goodbye, and thank you very much, returned the girl. The winged monkeys rose into the air and were out of sight in a twinkling. The country of the Quadlings seemed rich and happy. Dorothy and her friends walked by fields and across pretty bridges until they saw before them a very beautiful castle. Before the gates were three young girls, dressed in handsome red uniforms trimmed with gold braid. As Dorothy approached, one of them said to her, Why have you come to the South Country? To see the good witch who rules here, she answered. Will you take me to her? Let me have your name, and I will ask Glinda if she will receive you. They told who they were, and the girl soldier went back into the castle. After a few moments, she came back to say that Dorothy and the others were to be admitted at once.
Chapter 17. Glinda the Good Witch Grants Dorothy's Wish. They followed the soldier girl into a big room where the witch Glinda sat upon a throne of rubies. She was both beautiful and young to their eyes. Her hair was a rich red color and fell in flowing curls over her shoulders. Her dress was pure white, but her eyes were blue, and they looked kindly upon the little girl. "What can I do for you, my child?" she asked. Dorothy told the witch all of her story, how the cyclone had brought her to the land of Oz, how she had found her companions, and of the wonderful adventures they had met with. "My greatest wish now," she added, "is to get back to Kansas,
for Aunt Em will surely think something dreadful has happened to me." "Bless your heart," Glinda said. "I am sure I can tell you of a way to get back to Kansas. But if I do, you must give me the golden cap." "Willingly," exclaimed Dorothy. "Indeed, it is of no use to me now, and when you have it, you can command the winged monkeys 3 times." "And I think I shall need their service just those 3 times," answered Glinda, smiling. Dorothy gave her the golden cap, and the witch said to the Scarecrow, "What will you do when Dorothy has left us?" "I will return to the Emerald City," he replied, "for Oz has made me its ruler and the people like me. The only thing that worries me is how to cross the Hill of the Hammerheads." "By means of the golden cap I shall command the winged monkeys to carry you to the gates of the Emerald City," said Glinda, "for you will make a very wise ruler." Turning to the Tin Woodman, she asked, "What will become of you when Dorothy leaves this country?" He leaned on his axe and thought a moment. Then he said, "The Winkies were very kind to me and wanted me to rule over them after the Wicked Witch died. I am fond of the Winkies, and if I could get back again to the country of the West, I should like nothing better than to rule over them forever." "My second command to the winged monkeys," said Glinda, "will be that they carry you safely to the land of the Winkies. I am sure you will care for the Winkies with all of your heart." Then the witch looked at the big, shaggy lion and asked, "When Dorothy has returned to her own home, what will become of you?" "Over the Hill of the Hammerheads," he answered, "lies a grand old forest, and all the beasts that live there have made me their king. If I could only get back to this forest, I would pass my life very happily there." "My third command to the winged monkeys," said Glinda, "shall be to carry you to your forest to rule bravely. Then, having used up the powers of the golden cap, I shall give it to the king of the monkeys, that he and his band may thereafter be free evermore." The Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman and the Lion now thanked the good witch for her kindness. Then Dorothy exclaimed, "You are certainly as good as you are beautiful, but you have not yet told me how to get back to Kansas." "Your silver shoes will carry you over the desert," replied Glinda. "If you had known their power, you could have gone back to your Aunt Em the very first day you came to this country." "But then I would have not had my wonderful brains!" cried the Scarecrow. "I might have passed my whole life in the farmer's cornfield." "And I would have not had my lovely heart," said the Tin Woodman. "I might have stood and rusted in the forest till the end of the world." "And I would have lived a coward forever," declared the Lion, "and no beast in all the forest would have had a good word to say to me." "This is all true," said Dorothy, "and I am glad that I was of use to these good friends. But now that each of them has what he most desires, and each is happy in having a kingdom to rule, I think I should like to go back to Kansas." "The silver shoes," said the good witch, "have wonderful powers. All you have to do is click the heels together 3 times and command the shoes to carry you wherever you wish to go." "If that is so," said the child joyfully, "I will ask them to carry me back to Kansas at once." She threw her arms around the lion's neck and kissed him, patting his big head tenderly. Then she kissed the Tin Woodman, who was weeping in a way most dangerous to his joints. But she hugged the soft, stuffed body of the Scarecrow in her arms instead of kissing his painted face, and found she was crying herself at this sorrow parting from her loving friends. Dorothy now took Toto up in her arms, and having said one last goodbye, she clicked the heels of her shoes together 1, 2, 3 times, saying, "Take me home to Aunt Em." Instantly she was whirling through the air so swiftly that all she could see or feel was the wind whistling past her ears. Then she stopped so suddenly that she rolled over upon the grass several times before she knew where she was. At length, however, she sat up and looked about her. "Good gracious!" she cried, for she was sitting on the broad Kansas prairie, and just before her was the new farmhouse Uncle Henry built after the cyclone had carried away the old one. Uncle Henry was milking the cows in the barnyard, and Toto had jumped out of her arms and was running toward the barn, barking ferociously. Dorothy stood up and found she was in her stocking feet, for the silver shoes had fallen off in her flight through the air and were lost forever in the desert.
Chapter 18. Home Again. Aunt Em had just come out of the house to water the cabbages when she looked up and saw Dorothy running toward her. "My darling child!" she cried, folding the little girl in her arms and covering her face with kisses. "Where in the world did you come from?" "From the land of Oz," exclaimed Dorothy with wonder and joy. "And here's Toto, too. And oh, Aunt Em, I'm so glad to be at home again." The end. This has been a reading of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum, read by Miss Lauren and Miss Sam. Thank you for sharing this first story with us on the Seed Pod, and tune in next week where we'll start a brand new adventure. Here's a joke to hold you over for the weekend. Why can't a bike stand by itself?
I don't know.
It was too tired. Get it? Too tired. Thank you again for listening, friends. We'll see you back here next week for another Mystery Monday. So long!